Yes.
Well, yeah, we had, and you can show them in the OBS too, we have the retrain, but we have 2 experiments on station right now. It's called Apex Cambium. It's with the Canadian Space Agency and a researcher from the University of Florida. And we grew white spruce trees for 30 days on orbit. And we just had that harvest on orbit on Monday, and the ground control was yesterday. So Howard can show you that the plants kind of still look like, I cut some shoots off of them, but they still look like pine trees. And
where are those? We're on it.
they're in the OES.
Oh, so we can walk into the
Yeah.
OES.
And then we have another experiment going with Arabidopsis seedlings. They're kind of weeds. And they are going to be harvested tomorrow on orbit. And so that's the last of this experiment. But this, we've had 3 different runs going with this experiment. It launched in November of last year and has been doing a series of different experiments since then. So yeah, so we get downlink video. Like on Monday, they did the harvest, and we could see the video for probably 2 hours. We saw them working with the plant.
Nematode C. elegans studies within petri dishes. We have recently, we just flew on the last mission an experiment called BRIC-16 with Arabidopsis seeds that flew in petri dishes within this kind of a unit. This is a clear one, so you can see what's happening. But it's actually called the petri dish fixation unit, and it's designed so that there's think of it as a syringe compartment that has fixative, so that the plants can be fixed or preserved on orbit before returning to gravity conditions. So that's important, because once you land, then things readapt to 1G, and if you want to find out what's happening as a function of exposure to 0G or microgravity, you want to terminate the experiment on orbit. So, and one of the nice things about this is that you can fit 6 of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 5 with a temperature sensor in one of these, what we call a brick PDFU, or this is a brick LED container. And 8 of these can go into a half mid-deck locker space. So we actually flew 3 different principal investigator teams that shared that half mid-deck locker. It was also a very rapid turnover experiment. So it's kind of the thing that we specialize in, relatively rapid turnover. We want to do more of that in the years to come. So they're also, fluorescent tubes, have mercury within them, so they're not the safest technology. These have a much longer lifetime. They require less power. They're dimmable. So with the fluorescent tubes, they're either on or off. We actually have one of these on orbit right now being field tested by the astronauts. So in here, this is all done, but we just harvested a ground control experiment from our Spaceflight Advanced Biological Research mid-deck payload that's on the International Space Station. We grew, again, as you heard, 2 different kinds of plants, but we grew it in that orientation. Here's an example of some of the spruce trees. These came from the ground control that were already harvested, the tissues of interest. And you can see some Kennedy fixation tubes, AFTs, that have the tissues that are fixed within them. So you can go in and close with you if you want. That particular project was a project that we helped implement, but the sponsoring entity was the Canadian Space Agency. We had 2 principal investigators in this Abrams hardware because there were 2 chambers. One was American, one was Canadian. Okay. And of course, the Canadian Space Agency was funding investigators. Actually had 2 that were interested in different aspects of wood formation.
Optical systems, camera lenses, optical instruments like spectrometers and so on. And so we need to generate an electric field that travels along the surface of the material they were detecting. And so we came up with, and so the electric field has different configurations. One of them is generated by a pattern of electrodes to the moon, then it'll draw to the surface, so where it belongs. And if we keep it running and we try to dump dust on it, it'll deflect it. It'll come off. It won't accumulate. Because it's all
Coming soon to your home.
right.
Yeah, really easy cleaning, huh?
Right. So that it's a technology that NASA is very excited about because it's very simple and it works. And we're applying it to space suits as well. So this is fabric that we're applying the same type of thing. We moved up to the space suits to keep it relatively clean so they go back to the habitats and so on. And so that's right.
All right, thanks, Carlos.
Okay.
I got another group in a half an hour.
Sure.
Approaches, but they're more applicable to future missions because the capital costs of setting up these kinds of schemes and the power requirements that use things like electric lighting and those plants are pretty high. So when you get into the trade studies and the economic. One of the things that the research group here is involved with is looking at what's called trace contaminant control systems. When you have tightly closed atmospheres, like a space cabin, or anything that off-gasses organic compounds, it builds up. It doesn't have to be even organic. Any kind of volatile compounds will build up. And so you have to worry about that in terms of your managing the atmosphere of the system. You don't want things to get above levels that would be harmful to the humans. And so as a source of food for space environments, what are the issues, what are the reliabilities, the challenges to do that? And then can these systems be scaled up to where you have a more significant impact in terms of overall lifespan? Notice these are fluorescent lights here, and we're also looking at light emitting diodes. If you crouch down and look up, you'll see LED diodes. They're more appealing for space flight because they're solid state devices. They don't contain mercury vapor like fluorescent lamps. You don't have that safety risk. And they've become very efficient electrically. In the last 10 years, amazing improvements in LEDs. So they're very reliable devices. Their operating life is probably 10 times that of the last 10. They have high quality. You don't have those replacements. In fact, kind of an interesting story. I never got to tell us the first time. Because we've looked at LEDs for plant research for probably 15 years. We also been using our experience there to develop LED fixtures that go into the cabin light for the space station. We did an experiment in that. There's one still on the space station with white LEDs. It worked very well. The astronauts loved it. Doesn't contain mercury that